Hello everybody, welcome to a quick look at Frostpunk. This is a cool city builder story
that's
game.
Rodstarn's
come
job.
on. I abdicate responsibility whenever possible. I just know this as the newest sad game.
It is a
Interesting,
sad.
this is new.
Not just a sad game, but a sad game. Belonging to the genre of sad games.
Alright, to preserve civilization from the chaos of its own downfall, we fled to the end of the world. We will have to adapt to survive. Who will we become in the process?
This just has the premise of a Nordic LARP. It's just the kind
Yes.
of like sense of inevitable overbearing gloom, misery, and slow grinding depression. People who have to eat poor quality food for too long will become discontented.
This is the sort of game where literally you can put sawdust in the food to make more of it.
Wait. Put sawdust in what food?
Whatever food you're making.
We roam the steppe.
Alternatively,
Flour?
you can
Is
make
that the
soup.
deal? You put sawdust in flour? That's what it is?
I think that's the idea.
Except bread does not rise if you
Oh,
just
there's
put
no
random shit in the
subtitles.
flour.
Pride and glory.
Well, that's
Oh. Uh, Oh. Oh. Um, um,
unfortunate.
um,
Oh,
uh,
Well,
Well, look,
might-
okay, they know what this is.
I might
about.
back out of this and see if I can turn the subtitles on. Yep, sure, yep.
I don't know. I
Quit
feel
to
like
the
I
main
could
menu.
do this. Shit was fucked. Then we came here, where shit is cold. Now shit's
It's-
sad.
Is there a subtitle? Where would the subtitles be?
Working kid dreaming about sun and food.
Did you not see? Did you not see my tweet when this? Did
No,
you
I
not see
did
my
not.
tweet when this game came out? Let me find.
We roam the still, cold world.
Anyway, since you guys aren't going to be able to tell what's going on here with the audio, I guess we can listen to it.
Rulers
But
of old, stripped of pride and glory. It feels as yesterday we were turning the wheels of progress. Until the frost stopped it all. Suddenly, without a warning. When tides had changed, they changed for all of us, no matter wealth or class. We've lost our world to snow. And with it, our last traces of humanity.
so basically, Victorian England, or maybe Edwardian England. I think it's Victorian England. And suddenly the global temperatures drop everywhere.
We bid farewell to plenty. And for those who remained, came the time to adapt.
And
We decided to leave our homes.
I guess there was some warning times, so people were able to get together and figure out like how to build these big
Maybe months. leaving
dreadnought
behind
crawler
all the
things.
things we once believed had made us.
A crisis is coming to the happy place.
It was
Come,
hope.
we must board the misery engines and
pushed us
drive for the sadder climes to the north.
Slowly.
For some reason, we're heading north. I don't know
step
why.
By step. We knew the cost of our journey. And we paid the price 100 times.
We knew that
Finally,
many would die on the way there,
the
but that
time
all would be
has
vindicated
come
when we reached the place where
Build
people could
the
die much
last
more
city
efficiently.
on Earth.
All right, we fled from London and
It'd be
crossed the
funny if,
sea to
like,
reach the frozen
whole
north.
The whole thing like blew over like right after they left. And they're like, "This is the last city on Earth."
On our way, our convoy was hit by a blizzard and scattered. A handful of us managed to reach the site of this generator, only to find it frozen solid and abandoned. Why is no one here? Did any of our people survive the blizzard? And are there any others out there? Whatever we do, we should expect the worst now that the world, as we know it, has crumbled. We have to survive.
Well, we could look on the bright side. No! No looking on the bright side!
Speaking of which, this game does have a day-night cycle, which I found odd, given that we went up to the North Pole, where at certain times of the year you could have just infinite daylight or infinite night, which seems like a bad idea.
That is kind of like a weirdly specific thing to have pointlessly.
So this is
it's not pointless. Day and night matter in this game a lot.
Yeah, this is a city builder with where you manage individual people's lives. Well, in a sort of like if you've ever played the game Banished, it's a bit like that.
Hang
I
on,
just
hang on.
fuck up?
This is really cool how everything
right.
you build is like a wedge around the central structure. So that's a really good way to avoid making an unnatural looking settlement.
Yeah.
Well, that and it's the other reason they do it is because the whole game is about retaining and maintaining heat. Grids are more for traffic and cities, but since everything here is about sitting around this big heat generator in the center, yeah.
Like, you're not driving any wagons through here. This isn't Tombstone. This is Sad Town.
Right.
In Sad Town, everyone sits around morosely in scrap iron structures, clinging to each other for warmth, gently tousling the hair of dead-eyed children.
For the record, this is made by the people that made this War of Mine, correct?
Yes.
Oh my god, I was just thinking that's exactly what this game made me think of.
That would be why.
I mean, I say that, but it's not just because the game is very sad. It's also because, sort of in the beginning, like on the menu, we're seeing like little bios of people that are sort of generated. That was like this War of Mine shtick, so it makes sense that they kind of preserve that. By the way, I want to make it clear that like I don't think that this is an invalid artistic endeavor or anything. I mean, I wrote Unrest. That game is pretty grim.
We've got our first decision here. We've got a tech tree, but our tech tree is kind of like modifying society and what we decide to do. So we can we got workers here.
Okay.
And we've got workers and engineers are like more educated. They can do things that workers can't, but you tend to have fewer of them. And then we've got prohibited, 15 children. They can't do anything. So we can go into the Book of Laws here and we can decide, well, maybe we want to put those kids to work at safe jobs. And then later, you can see up here, kind of grayed out, we might be able to say, well, actually we need them to do all jobs. Or we can decide instead, no, we want to put our children in shelters and keep them safe and maybe, I don't know, educate them or whatever, have them looked after. And then beyond that, we might be able to make them into medic apprentices or engineer apprentices to help our doctors or engineers later on down the line.
Apprenticeship seems like the obvious choice here.
Yeah, this is generally what I went with, and there is kind of a problem with this game where it seems like you have these dilemmas of like, okay, this is not child labor is not what we really want, but would it be better? But vast majority of the time, like the one that seems like that seems like the better option if you want to be more hopeful is actually the better option.
Well, that's actually rather nice. That's optimistic.
I still don't know if that's true. I feel like you need to play through it multiple times to see some of the outcomes of some of the events.
Yeah, I will say that, like... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in addition to the moral choices in the Book of Laws, there are also, like, emergent story events where, like, you know, you set up a we'll probably see it, but you set up a medical tent, and one of the guy has got frostbite in his legs, and he's screaming, you know, kill me, I don't want you to take my leg, just let me die. And you have to decide then and there, do you force the doctor to remove his leg, or do you let him die? And I have heard that there are multiple outcomes to that event, other than the one I have seen, based on the same choice. So I don't think it's necessarily one answer is always the best answer, but I don't know. Josh has played this one.
Then we've got
the effects of the workers cutting trenches through the snow is actually really cool.
Then we've got stuff like this where occasionally people will be concerned and come to you and go like, okay, so we've got we don't have enough housing for everyone. and obviously bad thing to have in this kind of situation. You have the option to not care. Discontent will rise. Say that you're going to provide some shelter, and then that's the more conservative option. You'll get, if in 2 days you can provide shelter for 25 people, then you're good. Or you can say you'll provide shelter for everyone, and if you can provide shelter for all the people currently on not housed, then this will have a better reward. Now, I just built 5 houses, so this is pretty easy here.
Oh, so you're taking a risk. You're putting yourself out there a little bit. That's cool. That's a nice mechanic.
Yeah, and if you like fail at the the very hopeful option, then that's actually a really big thing. That's the worst outcome.
I would say that I love the two resources you have down there at the bottom: discontent and hope. You have to keep the people contented, but also keep them hopeful, and you're always balancing these two.
This is just a tutorial thing telling you, hey, you don't necessarily need to do whatever they tell you to. It's okay. So people are afraid they'll freeze to death if we don't turn the heat on for the night. This doesn't actually, night doesn't actually affect the amount of heat, but we're going to do that just because, hey, we've got some coal. We're good.
Doesn't it?
For the moment, anyway.
I thought it
does
did.
not. No. Night affects... Oh, wow. That's
labor.
Really annoying that I can't turn off my friends list
Steam...
now.
No, you have to turn off notifications within the settings. It's really stupid. Just for chronicling, hopefully this is going to pass, but at this point in July 2018, for posterity, Steam rolled out some changes to how their chat works. Read, "We are terrified of Discord," which basically makes it so that none of the features work the way that you want them to if you're not constantly online.
Hey, hope rises. Yeah.
It's like they sort of hid the option for Steam. Just don't bother me. Just don't bother me. Just let me play my video games online when I want to, but the rest of the time, just shut up. Just shut up. AKA the over 25 mode.
So we've got a
Predator
temperature
vision.
overlay here where we can see
I like mine better.
well, it's more like Terminator vision, but
no, Predator saw an infrared. Terminator didn't see an infrared.
Did he? I guess you're right.
You guys are both wrong. It's Drow vision. Continue.
We can see how warm it is in the various areas really easily. This is very useful. And we can also see we've got a calendar here, and we can kind of forecast the weather. And we'll see that the temperature will drop significantly shortly after the beginning of day 4. And that kind of ties in. Heat is just kind of basically levels. So you've got +1, +2, -1, -2, that kind of thing. Rather than a degrees system, which works well enough. You can also see we've got somebody who's sick. Anyway, let's speed up past through this. I really like the way this game looks. I'm annoyed that you cannot zoom in closer than this. Because it feels like you should be able to get in there and really look at the way this city looks. And it looks really nice, but you can't really ever get down to that level where you can pay real close attention to oh, this is this one person that I've been kind of following around for a while.
Yeah, that'd be neat. Biggest concern, that everything is fine. Oh, I've definitely seen an image macro about that on the internet.
It was my tweet. God damn it.
So has anyone brought up the fact that it does look like Nipple City?
Wait, what? This is news to me.
Yeah, it's just like a big spreading areola.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see that.
I don't know if we want to do anything here yet.
No, I got it immediately. Is your nipple not discharged flaming smoke at all times, Chris?
Well, this is a crater. Boobs tend to be convex. This is concave.
Down.
Really?
It's a reverse boob.
Oh God.
You're inside the boob looking out.
What are we talking about? I want...
Okay, so boobs on the table here. I'm just gonna cut
Oh,
straight to the
Jesus
chase.
Christ.
Let's just skip all of this very cool, very interesting, story emerge, blah blah blah. Joshua,
Rudscar.
spoil me now. Does this game have an ending?
Yes.
It has several scenarios, actually.
Several scenarios.
This is okay. This game looks like a free build city builder. It is not. This is a story. There is a campaign story going on here, and it goes. Yeah, the generator's shutting down. It's fine. I turned it off. And it goes, and it is about 6 hours long, and then it ends.
That's very interesting.
So you're not doing
like
the
that.
kind of SimCity posterity, building. See how big I can get or how long I can get.
I respect that. I respect that tremendously.
People are happy about child shelters.
Did he really just say that?
What?
Never mind.
What did I
People in
say?
the comments will pick up on. Not you, it was Josh.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm gonna ask for.
I don't know
I'm gonna
what I
double
said.
down on these spoilers here. How optimistic do the endings range?
I feel like that
Some
is
are optimistic, some are not.
Interesting. Okay. I mean,
one
I'm
of the
not
endings-
expecting
There are,
like
if you do everything right, you can get a pretty optimistic ending.
one of the endings is.
my ending, where I shut everything down and everyone froze to death and they kicked me out and I had to walk back to London by myself through the storm, was a pretty downer ending.
I'm just imagining like
All right,
Chris,
it's
like
night.
Chris
Turn this back
Franklin,
on.
like trudging through the snow with his head down while the Peanuts.
I
music
wouldn't make
plays
it
in
out of the
background.
crater.
Sure you
Then
would.
watch
Just
me-
like get to the edge, the Peanuts music is playing, like you start to scrabble up the snow, and it's just like, with arms wide open,
Oh God damn.
under the sunlight.
You know, not everybody watched the other show.
Perfect.
That
One's gonna
doesn't
get-
matter. They're gonna learn one way or the other. God damn it!
It's okay. I'll show them. I'll show them everything.
Let's put a couple in there.
Ugh.
So we've got certain buildings that only certain types of people can work in. Only workers can work at hunters' huts. And only engineers can work in medical posts as doctors. And the hunters actually go out at night. Interesting.
It's good.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things I found, is that I guess you took your Victorian laws
Maybe
with
make it
you, except for child labor, where we assume child labor is
Yeah.
bad and Victorian in England didn't. But
Oh, okay. I
Like-
mean,
they work 9 to 5, and abruptly at 5, all labor stops and goes home.
I feel like there's
Yeah, you actually have
some...
to enact laws to increase that time.
I feel like there is some need in drawing a distinction between
You should
children
probably-
working 18 hours a day in extremely
go.
dangerous
Let's do that.
conditions so that factory workers who own the capital can get wealthier, and children performing somewhat dangerous jobs because it is that, or accept the damnation of the entire civilization, including those children.
That's what I'm
Which
saying.
is not to say that it is justifiable in this case, because it's a pretty stupid usage of children. You're going to get them all murdered, when instead you could be teaching them the trades you will need, assuming that your people live longer than one generation.
I'm surprised how much stuff Josh has built before building the balloony go uppy thing.
Balloony go uppy thing.
I mean, that didn't really come up until just now as a prompt.
The winter is getting even colder. I haven't seen the sun in some time, and I wondered now what the point of surviving was. Today I'm to venture up in the balloony go uppy thingy and look for signs of the approaching storm. I fear what I might
I mean, you
find.
joke, but I just wish it was actually called the balloony go uppy thingy.
Is there an option to just like name it the balloony go uppy thingy?
You can't name buildings, but if there were, that is what I would name it.
Oh yeah, this tent is called the Fuck Shack. Am I right? And everyone's just like looking at you forlornly past their scarves.
It's a medical facility. There's just people laying there dying of frostbite. And you're like, oh yeah.
You're like, Fuck Shack, yeah! And a guy just like quietly limps past you on crutches into the shack.
So somebody coughs quietly.
This guy knows what I'm talking about up top, and he like doesn't have an arm.
So now we also have a research tree here. We're going to get the balloony go uppy thing. See, it says it right there. And we are going to... It's 1 in the morning. We're just going to put this on shift. We're not going to do a 24-hour shift. We can do that sometimes, and that's actually very important later on, is just telling people, like, hey, you guys need to fucking work, like, all the time.
Shift management.
I wonder what it's like to crunch on a game that involves mechanics about making people work 24 hours.
And like watching how fucking miserable they are. And you're just like, you're sitting in your cubicle with like the lights dim because everyone else has left, and it's like 9, it's like 12 midnight, and you're just like watching this guy go, no, we won't put up with it anymore. We won't put up with any more late nights. We won't take it. We're human beings. We have dignity. And you're like, great, perfect.
So a woman came forward after we built the workshop. She said that her husband and daughter didn't reach the city with the main group, but she's sure they're still out there. She wants to join the first scout team we send out. She urges you to hurry. We'll do what we can.
There's this glitch where our workers won't complain even after working months of late shifts, even on jobs that aren't super important. We need you to stay late to fix it.
Dangers of the cold, frostbite. Somebody has become gravely ill. Gravely ill people are, they're worse than just sick. They're sick so much that they become debilitated and cannot work. And we can either order radical treatment. Gravely ill will be treated in the medical posts, and they will get better. But 30% of the gravely ill treated in the medical posts will be left as amputees. Now, that's interesting because later on, you can then go and make prosthetics for these people and give them to them, and then they can rejoin as full workers. Or we can do sustain life. The gravely ill will be kept alive but untreated in medical posts. Hope will rise slightly. And then we'll eventually be able to build care houses to move them into. So what do we feel here?
That sounds like just an outright worse job. Like, what's the advantage of just like, yeah, let's take the gravely ill workers who aren't contributing and just keep them like that, fuck it, as opposed to like having a chance if they re-enter the workforce. That seems perverse.
I think there's like a thing of like, hey, these people are fucked up enough, like maybe just let them live the rest of their lives.
A lot of it also is the game trying to frame everything in terms of short-term gains versus long-term gains. For example, the child labor. You could use child labor right now, or you could set up shops that let you house the kids, and then eventually maybe down the line they can become engineers or doctors. Same thing with the treatment. You have to feed and house a bunch of people with no limb or with missing limbs who can't work for you in the short term, which means more mouths to feed but no labor, or but eventually they can re-enter the labor force and you're back up to 100%. Or in the short term, you take care of them and they eventually die, but it's not as big of a deal because at least it's not a mouth to feed. That seems to be the trade-off the game's going for, is short versus long term.
Here we've got the second level of this game, which is the overworld now. Now we've got the beacon, we can go and scout. We can create a scouting party and send people out to go do that. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay, this game, I'll be honest, this game seems rad as hell.
It is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I was cracking wise, but it honestly seems like a really cool concept.
So
I mean, now that you guys said it, I can't unsee the boob.
Working.
It's gaining complexity. Are there things that like attack the like? Are there like other people, or is there like a sci-fi?
No, there's no like combat layer.
What this feels like, honestly, and this is rad as hell, and more games should be like this. what this feels like is like an HBO's type series, like about this like sort of very grave scenario that like slowly unfolds this gradual escalating drama, but with instead of having like the narrative told through writing and like scenes and characters, just telling it kind of emergently through atmosphere and mechanics, and that is I think a sublime accomplishment of video game technique.
I mean, the people that what is
radical
the studio?
treatment.
11-bit studio. I mean, they've been really good at designing emergent narratives that actually do have really cool mechanics, and I'm really excited to see whatever they do next.
Emergency shift, you guys.
Yeah.
This is
That's
going
not
to kill
bad for
somebody
$2.75.
because, as far as I can tell, someone always dies when you do the first emergency shift. But so our discontent is up pretty high now.
Yep, everybody's mad for some reason.
But, well, it's because I didn't have any food for a while. I had raw food, and they'll eat raw food if it really comes down to it, but we need cooked food.
Okay, we need a morale-raising measure.
And they're also cold, because...
What do you guys think about walking past all the pents while grinding our fingers into the corners of our eyes and going, ah, boo, 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 ah, boo, 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 I'm cold.
I think you should be the one to try that first.
No reference, just
all right.
Thought it'd be amusing.
So we found survivors. We can escort them to the city, or we can send them to the city and keep going. We're going to escort them to the city, because if we just send them, some might get lost and killed, and that would be bad. And we're not that far away anyway, so... And this is how you get more population.
Food is hard.
I do appreciate the discontent and hope are separate values. That's very shrewd. I mean,
yeah.
You could in theory set this society up so that it will continue more or less indefinitely and tend to everybody's needs on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, it's not very inspiring. Whereas, people can be very unhappy, but also like, So I guess the point of the crater is that it keeps the wind off, or like the worst of the wind. Is that it?
I guess, yeah. Or this is a glacier that has formed recently, and the heater's at the on the actual floor of the on rock. It's heartwarming to see families reunited after so many hardships, but shouldn't there be other settlements nearby? The first expeditions left London long ago. They ought to be well established by now. They'll surely help us find our footing.
I appreciate the understated aesthetic of this game. Often when kind of this sort of steampunky thing happens, there's a tendency to just like video game that shit up and make it look really ugly and chunky. But there's a very naturalistic approach to people's outfits. Yeah. There's a very naturalistic approach to their outfits and their clothing. I mean, actually, there's kind of a thing in video games where, sort of regardless of the era, there's a tendency to ugly things up and make them video gamey. Just people's clothes look video gamey. It's it can't just be a Victorian dude in kind of a frumpy jacket. It's like a Victorian dude with a super tight vest, with a gold chain and rolled up sleeves over his kind of hairy muscular arms.
Paused.
And a mall haircut.
Lots of people are hungry. Lots of people are hungry. Lots of people are hungry 'cause you don't have food.
But we do, actually. We just haven't gotten any of it yet.
Mix up that gruel. Hurry up.
You'll eat when the moment is ready. Can it be soon? Nope. Wait for it.
Fighting arena.
Let's make a fighting arena.
Let's not do that. I feel...
No, let's definitely do it.
This is the best thing to start doing. Start
just
Fight Club.
stumble into the law chamber and be like,
Look
all
at
right,
how
book
big
of
that
laws.
is.
What are the laws of the fighting arena? We haven't really determined
big,
that.
that's
Okay,
the
what are
radius
the
of
laws
it.
about child labor? Where are you going? No. It's gonna be so sweet.
It's like the one good thing about living in the post-apocalypse is we get to have an arena fighting system.
We get to legalize kid fights. Builds character. Keeps him off the streets. What
Let's
streets?
build some more. Oh, I put that in the wrong place. Oh well. We actually are building streets.
Oh, good. Now let's keep the kids off of them.
Sometimes it's really hard to tell if that's going to intersect. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Kind of runs into the road. We need some wood.
Time to rest, folks. Work's out for today.
What are we using for food currently?
People are going out and hunting.
Okay. That seems kind of desperate.
This. We need wood.
I mean, yes, I come from an agrarian-centric culture, but on the other hand, how much wildlife can there possibly be to sustain this population?
It's kind of one of those bits where as there really should be a bigger deal put on food, but there isn't, and it's just kind of a conceit of the setting. We can hear terrified shrieks coming from the cave uphill. When we come closer, several polar bears turn towards us, blocking the entrance. People are trapped inside, and those beasts are picking them off one by one and feasting on them. The people in the cave will live. Scouts will escort them to our city if they survive. Yeah, fuck it. Risk the attacking the bears. Fight the bears.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bear
fight the
fight.
bears.
Bear fight.
Unfortunately, the scouts died from their injuries. All the scouts died. All 5 of the scouts died, and the rest of them made it out. So they're on their way here. That's neat.
Well, at least we got some bear meat. What a lovely morning. I'm ready to take on the day. Oh boy, that guy must be such a piece of shit. Like, all of his neighbors must just hate him. It's a beautiful day in the craterhood, a beautiful day in the crater. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine?
We're actually going to go and make sawmills here if we can get the wood.
We want to build a sawmill, but we're struggling to scrape together enough wood.
That is kind of the dilemma. It's actually what I'm concerned about, is because there's only one source of wood crates left. Everything else requires buildings to gather, so...
So what, you're just gonna like build a sawmill and then that'll be all the available wood within a large radius?
Well, there's a lot of trees here, but yeah, it'll
Oh, but you can't
gather
turn the trees into
from-
wood without a sawmill. Ah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of them chicken and the egg things. You'd think you could just make a shitty sawmill, like, just out in the middle of nowhere, but no, I see how it is. Is it like an industrial sawmill?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there an explanation of how you're machining parts for all this stuff?
No.
Okay. I guess there's like an extent to which you just sort of have to accept the abstraction.
Yeah.
Gather your tools. The shift is ending.
Slightly ashamed, but whatever.
3rd of the 6th. Okay, let's do that. We can pretty easily make a medical post here. Alright, let's figure the sawmill.
So we have a sawmill, we can start picking mercenaries to fight each other in it. So how useful are the streets if they immediately get covered in snow?
I think the idea is the streets have like some heater stuff attached to them or something. I don't actually know. They don't actually provide heat, but you can build things on them that will provide heat. So let's get a range upgrade going here. We don't have enough.
More wood. Well, you're building a sawmill.
It is a little weird to play this game in the middle of summer. Like, we are in the dead of summer playing the coldest game possible.
Everyone has an Arctic of the mind, Chris. An Arctic of the soul.
I'd say it's Christmas in July, but I'm pretty sure this is going up
Someone
in
died
August.
from overwork.
I have known Christmas in July, and it was the worst
I
thing.
must make sacrifices.
Josh is gonna have to
I-
get it
I-
up in July now.
Yes. Damn it.
Just because you said that.
So when I was
Now I've
I
got
was
something
younger, I worked
interesting.
at, oh. What's up?
We can build
Oh,
cemeteries or corpse piles.
Well,
Oh,
And then if the corpse piles, eventually the corpse piles can be, we can thaw them out and use them for organ transplants. I generally go with cemetery for obvious reasons.
Yeah, that's like an ancient thing. People have just always done that in every possible context where they can. I feel like you don't want to mess with that. Anyway, I worked for a while at Michael's, and it was a hilariously bad job. Not just in terms of like working conditions and salary, which of course were terrible, but just like in terms of the morale of that job. And one of my favorite stories, and probably the one that holds up best without any context, is it was July. I was offloading a truck with my fellow employees, and by the way, for those who aren't Americans, Michael's is a craft store. And one of the crates is open, and we see there's like a bunch of just the tackiest, shittiest Christmas decorations in there. And I'm like, oh, it's Christmas decorations already. One of the other employees is like, yeah, it's Christmas decorations. July's when they come in. Working here really ruined Christmas for me last year. And I'm like, haha. And one of the other employees is just like, what's so funny?
Work time. Get moving.
What is this? Survivors reach the city. Okay, cool.
All right, how much more do we got in this episode, do you think?
We could probably end it pretty soon here. I was hoping we could get to the first major plot point, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that quite that far.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
It's kind of
I
how
think
it
this
works
is-
out.
yeah, I mean, stuff happens when it happens. It's a really random point, and I don't expect this to make sense to anyone else in particular, but what this game visually reminds me of is Rise of Legends. Is that even a name anybody remembers?
Was that...
It was the Rise
No,
of
I have no idea
Nations
what that is.
spin-off that was like weird and steampunk.
I never actually ended up playing the Rise of Nations stuff.
You were ahead of your time.
Now nobody plays it.
Yeah, because it was like it was game changing, and everyone was like, "This is the future of RTSs," and it really, really was not. Like to an absolutely insane degree. It was the future of an alternate reality where that kind of RTS remained a thing.
Yep.
It's like a badass new fax machine with a million different options and settings. That's basically like Rise of Nations for you.
I do love how that's kind of a weirdly... Hear ye, your Labor Day is over. Which is somehow, like, way too old for Victorian England and way too progressive for Victorian England at the same time.
The work day is over. It is the time for Miller. What? The mill again? I just got back from the mill. No. The beverage.
I love there's you can put sawdust into food. Here's the other option. We can cook soup instead of full meals to feed more people at the same time with the same amount of raw food. New
Yes,
recipe
obviously.
soup. Hope will fall slightly. Discontent will rise slightly. Eating soup will cause discontent. Nobody likes soup.
Yeah, like, okay, if you're talking
I mean-
actual, like, anthropology / stuff that is, probably possible, like, cooking food in boiling water is some basic shit, because it preserves all of the nutrients in the broth. Nothing is wasted.
Plus,
You're
you
talking
can
about,
use stuff
roasting
like
meat?
the bones and stuff and extract nutrients from those.
Yeah.
But soup is not a meal, and I get it. I would rather have, like, a sandwich with sawdust that lets me pretend I ate a real thing than eat a bowl of soup and be like, that's it, that's what you get. Like, your tummy will still be grumbling after a bowl of soup, even if it's got all the nutrients it needs to keep you alive. But, like, a sawdust burger, that shit will keep you full.
That's why you occasionally feed people whoever died in the most recent bloodbath fight in the fighting arena.
Have we got to that point yet? Have we unlocked that with the...
Oh, yeah, we got a fighting arena.
No, the choice of what to do with the dead?
Oh, yeah,
In the
we built a
pit?
cemetery.
No, but, like, don't you get to
Is
eventually choose what to
cannibalism
do
like
with the
an
bodies?
option?
That is an option, but we chose cemetery instead.
Yeah, you have to choose the
Probably
body pit.
for the best.
I've never used the body pit at all.
The body pit just doesn't sound like a good idea for anything or anyone.
No, it's a terrible
It's
idea.
useful because they're cold and so they're preserved and so you could eat them later.
Oh,
I'm not
you
joking,
can
that's in the-
cannibal? That's great.
I thought you
All right,
could.
place them in the barbecue pit.
What you can do
mean the
something
body
with the
pit?
bodies in the pit. I
Oh,
can't
right, we're
remember.
not
Let me
there
look.
yet. You can harvest their organs, apparently.
Okay, there.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Well, it's not there to get rid of bodies. I feel like the body pit's
I mean,
primary
it also
purpose
gets
is to
rid of
house
bodies.
Well, yes.
So now we can build steam.
Remind me to
hubs,
not
which
ask
are
Josh for
incredibly important.
organs because he's just going to try to find the closest body pit.
Do you guys have a body pit, or do you use like a body sharing system?
I go old school with the body cart.
Oh, the body cart, yeah. If you got one in your neighborhood, that's cool. I'm trying to get them to start one in my neighborhood. But I don't know. It's just a bunch of old people and boomers, so I don't know if they're gonna be into it.
You need the cart share app.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, that was a
dead.
look at Frostpunk here. I think this game is really cool. They're working on new scenarios for it. I don't think they're in yet, but there's 3 scenarios by default. And they do change up the way the game is played in a really neat way for each of these scenarios. One of them is like straight up like socialist revolution, basically like a bunch of poor people took over one of those big crawlers, and so you end up with a lot of workers but very few engineers.
I mean, like, in terms of if you're trundling to the North Pole, do you want to then give a small amount of the survivors access to all of the means of production? That sounds like a bad idea. Like, honestly, socialism at that point is looking like a really, really good idea. Sort of incontrovertibly, rather than just making somebody the landlord of the crater.